I've got to admit, the first time I thought about buying a CNC router, I was haunted by the same story you hear every time someone tries to cut corners on a budget machine. You see those cheap, all-metal kits on the internet, you picture a solid piece of equipment for a couple of $100, and then you end up with a wobbling carriage, missed steps, and a pile of scrap that looks like someone tried to hack a salad fork into a wooden plank. That regret is real, and it's what makes me pause before I click add to cart on anything that promises a big work envelope but a tiny price tag. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'm going to walk you through why the WolfPawn upgraded CNC router might actually be the smarter buy or why you should keep scrolling. First off, let's talk about the kind of projects that pull a CNC router into a home workshop. If you're the type of maker who spends weekends carving decorative panels, cutting hobby-scale aluminum brackets for drones, or engraving intricate acrylic signage for a small business, you need a machine that can actually hold its line while you push it through a half-inch of material. The WolfPawn's 1000mm by 1000mm by 110mm work area is generous enough to fit a full sheet of plywood in one go, which means you can do a tabletop or a set of acrylic key holders without having to reneast the parts. That's a real time saver, especially if you're trying to keep labor costs low while you're still learning the software. The way the router moves is also a big deal. The machine uses linear guides on every axis, coupled with ball screws. In plain English, you're looking at a rail system that keeps the carriage straight and a drive mechanism that reduces backlash. For most hobbyists, this translates into smoother cuts when you're tracing a complex curve in a wood veneer, and tighter tolerances when you're engraving a logo into aluminum. I've tested a similar setup on a friend's shop, and the difference showed up within a few millimeters. Nothing you can't correct in post-processing, but enough to mean the difference between a clean fit and a piece that has to be sanded down. So, if your workflow demands that kind of precision, those linear guides are a practical strength that you'll notice day to day. On the software side, the router ships with an upgraded control board that runs Grbl version 1.1 firmware. That's the open-source backbone most hobby CNC users already know, which means you're not locked into a proprietary ecosystem. You can fire up Universal Code Sender, EasyCam, or any of the more visual tools like Fusion 360 if you're comfortable with a CAD/CAM pipeline. The open nature makes troubleshooting easier, too. If you ever run into a communication error, you have a community of millions of users who have already written a fix or a small script to get you back on track. It's a practical advantage that isn't just marketing fluff. It actually reduces the friction you feel when you're learning to calibrate steps per millimeter or adjusting the axis 0. Now, let's get honest about the trade-offs. The machine's frame is primarily aluminum extrusion, which keeps the weight manageable for a home garage but does mean the whole unit can wobble a bit if you place it on a less than ideal surface. I've seen owners put a cheap 24 under the base to level it, but the more stable solution is a sturdy steel table or a concrete slab. That extra step isn't a deal-breaker, but it's a hidden cost you need to anticipate if your shop floor isn't already a solid platform. Also, while the machine can cut aluminum, it's not set up for heavy-duty metal milling. Think of it more as a light cutting tool that will handle a 1/4 inch of aluminum for signage or brackets, but not thick machinist-grade stock. If you have dreams of producing high-volume metal parts, you'll end up needing a more robust spindle and a reinforced frame, which the WolfPawn isn't built to accommodate. Who should buy this router? If you're an intermediate maker who's already comfortable with basic code and you need a reliable, reasonably sized workspace for wood, acrylic, and occasional aluminum, this machine fits nicely. Small business owners who produce custom signs, hobbyists who want to prototype parts for drones or RC vehicles, and teachers looking for a classroom-friendly CNC that can demonstrate both engraving and routing are all good matches. On the flip side, if you're a beginner who has never touched a CNC and you're still figuring out what a work envelope even means, the size and the need to prep a proper base might feel overwhelming. Likewise, anyone who wants a turnkey just plug-and-play experience without any tuning will be disappointed. This is a machine that expects you to spend a few hours on calibration, belt tension, and basic software setup before you see consistent results. In practice, the biggest win you'll see is the ability to batch produce.